This is the new DJI Inspire 3 drone.
This is a CineD Gear News video, supported by B&H and CVP.
Welcome everybody, this is CineD at NAB 2023. My name is Nino and I'm here with Ferdinand from DJI. How are you?
I'm great, how are you?
Very well indeed. I mean, this is the first time in many years that DJI has a big booth at NAB.
Yep.
I mean, you also have a lot of big news, I guess, that's the reason. So
Absolutely, yeah.
Today we're talking about the Inspire 3. It has been, what, 7 years?
7 years,
Since
yeah.
the introduction of the Inspire 2. A lot of people have been waiting for an updated version of the Inspire. Now it is here. Well, what can you tell me about it?
Well, I would say it was worth the wait. It is absolutely feature-packed. We have a lot of upgrades in pretty much every single aspect. And we can't wait to ship it to the people and see what they will do with it.
I mean, the Inspire 2 is still in use by so many people all over the world. What are the things? I mean, 7 years is an astronomically long time in technology, especially, yeah. But it has actually, it's surprising that people are still using it that much because it's 7 years old.
It's industry standard still, you know. So, but yeah, it was time for an update, and it's finally here. There's so many things to talk about.
Maybe let's start with the camera. What's, like now we have 8K.
Yeah, it's the heart of an all-integrated drone. You know, it's the camera has to match the other cameras on set. And, now we moved on 7 years now. I mean, it has been 6 years, 6.5 years from the X7. But now we're having a new generation of cinema cameras, and we have to match those cameras with our new camera. And I'm happy to say that we finally can. We have a purposely designed full-frame 8.1K sensor on this camera, which shoots up to 75 frames in 8.1K. If you go to 4K, you shoot 120 frames slow motion, 14.7 stops of dynamic range, dual native ISO. If you shoot at 24 and 25 frames, we're talking about 800 and 4000, so you can finally shoot in low light. That was one of the most limiting things on the X7 with the 1600 ISO. So yeah, now you can shoot low light, you can match the cinema cameras on set. And I think that's a huge upgrade already. Full frame is also the way to go. Nowadays, most cinema cameras go full frame. And because it's full frame, we also updated our lens line. So we now have a new 18mm lens, which covered the full frame sensor, together with the 24, 35, and 50mm that you know from the X7. The 16mm was for Super 35, so that cannot be used in that camera anymore.
Is a longer focal length coming at any point?
Yes, I'm happy to say that there will be a longer focal length as well. So that will come out later, which is great. And there's another cool thing. We also support flexible frame rates now. So you can do the typical undercrank stuff, where you have a 24, 25 timeline, and then you can shoot at 21 frames. Very, very popular in car commercials to get this action-packed shots that you normally use on the camera cars as well.
Let's stay with the camera for a second. I mean, 8K in 75 frames is very impressive. Also, even compared to high-end cinema cameras, hardly anybody can do that. But one thing I have to ask, I'm a Ronin 4D user. Yeah. So we have the X9 also on the Ronin 4D. It is a 6K version there. Here it's an 8K version.
Right.
But that is not the 8K that people are waiting for the Ronin 4D, or is it?
This sensor will come to the Ronin 4D as well later. So we're happy to finally introduce this with the Inspire 3, right? So with the Ronin 4D, we introduced the Ronin 4D with a 6K sensor. On the Inspire 3, we have the updated 8K, but that will come to the Ronin 4D as well. And I'm also very happy to say that we adopted the color science, the DJI Cinema color system from the Ronin 4D onto the Inspire as well on the i3. And also on the new sensor on the 8.1K, it's the same color science. So you can seamlessly grade both cameras, 6K, 8K, Ronin 4D, Inspire 3. So they basically seamlessly work together. And that's also really, really cool to have.
It's nice that it works together, but I mean, there was a lot of speculation if it's actually going to be the same, if this can be put on the Ronin 4D and vice versa. That's not possible, I think.
It cannot be, because on an aerial platform, an all-integrated aerial platform, and we're going to talk about the frame and the design in a second, I guess, we have more limitations in weight and the payload we can carry. So this is, and that's the reason why it's called X9 Air, because it's basically purposely built for the drone to make it extremely lightweight. And that's the reason why we couldn't integrate the ND filters that you have on the Ronin 4D. I mean, they would be great for aerial, but then the whole drone would not be like that. It would be way bigger.
Okay, makes sense.
This is a purposely built gimbal for this drone, and you cannot interchange them. It's also a slightly different mounting system to accommodate the high G forces that you have on aerial systems.
But it also makes it less compromised in a way.
Exactly. It is, this is the camera that we built for this drone, and the Ronin 4D camera is the Ronin 4D camera and gimbal that you need on the Ronin 4D with the NDs and with all that you need there. So, yeah.
But apart from image quality, resolution, let's talk about the rest. What is new? It just looks similar to the Inspire.
Exactly, and that's a good thing. I always want to emphasize that. You directly see that it's the Inspire platform. You have the iconic H-shaped design, and the great thing that made the Inspire platform so popular is that it's ultra portable. So basically, you can put it on a backpack, put some batteries in the backpack and the remote, and hike up a mountain as a single person. Try that with any other cinema drone, where you have to put a cinema camera in. It's impossible. You need at least 3 people. To carry the batteries alone, you need 1 person. So we kept the small form factor. You also can fly in very tight spaces and close to subjects. That's also something. You don't have that gigantic downwash. In terms of safety, it's way more safer to fly close to things and subjects, so that's great. But we changed a lot of things on the frame itself. So maybe let's start with the integration of body components. On the i2, maybe you remember that you had the FPV camera on a separate bracket together with the obstacle avoidance system. So now we integrate the FPV camera. And talking about FPV camera, this is one of the biggest upgrades for pilots, because we now have a completely new sensor with the new ultra-wide angle lens. We're talking 161 degrees, so that's very, very wide. And that's also the typical FOV you normally have on FPV drones. So people that are familiar flying FPV drones, they will be very happy to see that they basically have the same FOV, together with a low latency image transmission and also a low light sensor. You're basically able to maneuver this FPV style. You don't have to rely on pure line of sight anymore, and that really enables new shots. And it makes the pilot fly confidently, even in low light, around objects. This is a huge improvement for the pilot. Let's come to the obstacle avoidance sensors. So they're now integrated into the arms, and as you know from Mavic 3, it's now omnidirectional, up, down, and all around, which even is a huge step forward for professional pilots, because if you have to position the drone for a shot, you have to back up the drone. FPV cameras facing forward, you don't want to turn it around to see how much space you have to the wall or whatever you're going close to. You can now fully rely on the obstacle avoidance system, or obstacle sensing system, how we call it. And the great thing is now you can fully configure it. So professional pilots, they don't like automated things. They don't want the drone to automatically stop or bypass because it could ruin a shot. So what we can do here is you disable all that, but you still have the benefit of having a visual radar map and an acoustic warning. And you can also configure the distance. It's very similar to a car park assistant. So it basically warns you if you're too close to something. And I used it a lot, shooting the launch commercials and all that other stuff, and I'm pretty happy that we have that system on there. I think professional pilots will really appreciate it once they're getting used to it.
Well, I mean, everybody also says, you have to maintain line of sight, but it's very hard in practice in some cases, especially with a drone like this.
Exactly. Sometimes it's difficult. Also, what makes it difficult flying line of sight is that you constantly have to, check the main camera image, and then you have to find your drone. You look down and where's my drone now? So, sure, there's legal restrictions. You always have a visual observer that has to be, watching the drone, but the pilot actually can fly pure FPV style now, right? And that's really huge. I find myself, I flew all drones that are on the market for over 10 years. And with the i3, I find myself flying FPV way more than line of sight.
I think that's something we should mention, that Ferdinand is a professional drone pilot, also outside of his work of DJI, which is very important to know, because you don't have just the name on there, so all
professional film sets. I fly FPV drones, I fly heavy lifters. on basically commercials, TV shows, feature films. Yeah. So there's a lot of that experience went into this product as well.
There's also a cool new feature that I think was already introduced with one of the Mavic drones, the waypoint feature.
Right. Before we touch that, I would like to continue with the body.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. We can talk about software features later. So let me point on one cool thing. So SSD slot is on top. Don't have to fiddle around at the end anymore. Just pop it out and maybe you recognize this. It's the same design that we use on the Ronin 4D as well. And it has a cool trick that DITs and data wranglers absolutely love. It's the integrated USB connection. So you don't need a dedicated card reader anymore. So on set, from my experience,
It's amazing every time.
shooting
It saves so
late,
much time at the end of the day.
late, you still didn't have the chance to give the SSDs to the DIT, and then you basically have to hand it over with one reader. He doesn't have the time to copy everything. So now you just give him the SSDs. He can copy several SSDs at the same time. You don't give out your reader that you have to get back. He can just send it back. Huge, huge upgrade. And it's also cross-compatible with the Ronin 4D. So if you have a Ronin 4D on set, you can mix and use the same media, which is great. We also updated our batteries. So it's TB51 now. Higher voltage, better output in high temperatures and low temperatures. They're still under 100 watt. So you can easily take the whole system on board of an aircraft and travel with it. Very, very important for professionals. Heavy lifters, always the pain that you have those big batteries that you have to ship, so this still goes on an aircraft. So what else is to say about the frame design? Maybe you recognize that it is slightly V-shaped now in the downward position. And we actually now use the downward position for something else than just taking off and landing, like on the previous generations. We now have a feature called tilt boost. So in the lower position, you have this wider stance in the front and the aircraft nose raises up. That gives more clearance and actually allows an upward tilt angle of 80 degrees, as you can see here. And that's obstruction-free 80 degrees. So you might say, yeah, there's other drones where you can top mount gimbals. You can, but then you're limited to looking up and forward, but you cannot look down anymore because you would get the booms in. Or you mount it on the bottom, then you're not going up. On this drone, you can basically go from minus 90 degree to plus 80. And that enables totally new shots, which is fantastic to get those creative, angles. Yeah, flying through a forest, starting at the ground and looking up into the treetops. That's absolutely amazing. For architecture, big benefit as well. So that's really cool. And then when you transform, you can actually see the V shape is going back to an H shape. It goes to a more narrow upward position with a steeper angle, 15 degrees more than on the i2, which allows more clearance for the camera if you're looking sideways. If you do aggressive flight maneuvers, on the i2, sometimes the legs came in, so this is now improved as well. So big improvements on the frame design. Okay, now we can talk software.
Yeah, let's talk software. Waypoint.
So we integrated two really cool software features. First of all, we integrated Spotlight Pro. So if you're flying solo, you have basically a virtual gimbal assistant, and it works phenomenal. The gimbal stays locked on subjects. Even if there's a tree going through, it still finds the subject and pilot can focus on flying. That's pretty cool. But let's be honest, most of the time a drone like this will be operated in a two operator mode. So we have a feature called Waypoint Pro integrated right out of the box. You don't have to install any third-party apps anymore, which is big. And we have two modes. The repeatable routes, you fully pre-program the flight path of the drone and the movement of the gimbal. So it's like a robo arm in the air, and you can repeat those routes centimeter level precise because we now support RTK base stations as well, which gives you centimeter level precision. Repeat those routes. That means you can merge two shots in post, like going from daytime to nighttime, from like one winter season to summer season, it opens up totally new possibilities in VFX and post. That's really cool. But if you know how things on a set work, you know that it's always different. Every take is has a different timing because the actor might be, So that's the reason why we implemented 3D dolly. You still have your waypoints, you still set up your tracks and your routes in the air, but now you can manually control the speed along the track. And that is huge. And also manually control the gimbal.
It's like following like on a line, but you adjust the speed of it.
It just goes backwards and forwards while doing the most complex.
Like a train track.
Exactly. So the pilot can fully focus on the speed of the action, and the gimbal operator can fully focus on the gimbal movement. It makes it very easy for the gimbal operator as well, because the flight path is always the same, so he doesn't have to adopt to a new flight path. And for the set, it's very, very efficient, because if you have to reset and do the take again, the flight path will always be the same. Even a pro pilot cannot fly that precise. So that's really cool. And talking about precision, we also integrated 2 dual GNSS. So it's a dual GNSS system now, one in the front, one in the back. So what does it mean? Because we have 2 antennas now and a set of visual sensors, we don't need to rely on the compass that much anymore. And that's a huge step, because it makes the drone way more precise, because it allows for internal orientation without compass, which is always prone to interference, especially if you fly close to metal subjects, you want to take off a bridge, you always have problems with compass recalibration, which is a thing of the past. You calibrate it once, no GPS, no DJI dance anymore in front of the set, right? If you fly to another country, you calibrate the compass once, you don't have to recalibrate it anymore. This is a big step forward. And there's another big benefit. If you remember, like most aerial gimbals, if you do a 180 pan with the gimbal, the horizon will be crooked. This is always difficult for the gimbal operator to compensate, especially if he does like a move where he tilts up, and he cannot really clearly see the horizon in the start of the frame, and then he comes out crooked, really bad. So on this one, you can spin as much as you want and the horizon will stay level. This is really big.
Can you also fly really slowly? Because that's one of the things that I'm more a Mavic guy, but one of the things we've been missing over the last few years that's only finally slowly coming back is the actual tripod mode.
You can fully configure all your modes. You can fly extremely slowly and it will be extremely precise. It is replacing a dolly on the ground. It is so stable, and so you can fly it so slowly that you think it's a dolly. It's even better because you can basically have the camera like centimeter height scraping over the ground. So that's really, really cool. So there's 2 more things I want to talk about. That's the transmission system. So now we integrated our latest technology, O3 Pro, into the Inspire 3. That allows us distances up to 15 kilometers or 9 miles, which is insane. So people will ask...
Talking about line of sight.
Exactly. People will ask, why do I have to fly it that far? You don't have to, but having that distance also means if you have obstructions, like objects, trees, whatever, in the middle, it will be, the signal penetration is way better than on previous generations. Image quality is improved, latency is reduced, and maybe the most important feature in that regard is that the pilot and the gimbal operator, they don't have to stand right next to each other anymore. On the i2, we use the direct connection between the pilot's remote and the gimbal operator remote. On the Inspire 3, they both have dedicated links. So gimbal operator could stand on one end of that building, pilot on the other end. As long as they have a direct connection to the drone, which is, as I said, 15 kilometers, they can work together. And that's really, really important on professional sets, because the gimbal operator mostly has to stick with the DP or director, while the pilot wants to roam around to get the perfect angle to see how the drone flows for safety reasons as well. So that's a huge upgrade. And I'm really happy to say that our new transmission technology also makes it possible to use the DJI Hybrid monitor, which opens up our DJI ecosystem. So you can use the DJI Master Wheels, which you can see over there, to control the gimbal, because there's still a lot of DPs out there that prefer Master Wheels over like those, they have their reasons for that. We also can use the drone for the hand grips, and we support our new 3-channel follow focus unit that you can connect to the hybrid monitor, so you can even work in a 3-operator setup.
It's really great. So total interoperability between the devices.
We call it the DJI ecosystem. So the last thing I want to show you is our new remote, which was introduced with our enterprise drone M30. Because it comes from an enterprise drone, it's very rugged, weatherproof. It has a lot of buttons you can freely map. Yeah. You can even see like the icons on the screen here. 5D controller. As I said, weatherproof. It has some really nice features. You can detach the antenna if one should break. You can flip out a little belly stand that makes it very convenient to have the remote high up, because most of the time you want to have it high up so you can look at the drone and instantly find your remote. And you can retract those two nice things where you can attach our harness, and the harness actually doesn't put any stress on your neck or your back. It's really comfortable to run around with the remote attached to the harness whole day. Talking whole day, we have a battery integrated that already goes over 3 hours battery time, but you can also pop in this battery.
So that's an additional one for hot swapping.
External battery, remote still on. This is another 3 hours. And if you should ever run out on battery, which I never achieved, you can just pop in a new one, fresh one, and then you have another 3 hours of battery time, which is absolutely amazing. And as I said, the drone is hot swappable as well. So basically, you don't have to turn off the drone or the remote the whole day, which is also on professional productions really, really important.
Very cool. I mean, there's a million new features we could still talk about, but I think we'll wrap it up here because it's a very comprehensive overview that we got from you. Thank you, Ferdy. One last thing, okay.
1200,
like Steve Jobs.
1200 nits, integrated 7-inch display. No need for iPads, no cables.
So you mean without a sun hood?
Exactly. I shot 3 weeks in Morocco, didn't even have to pop on a sun hood or shade. It's bright enough, which is also big.
Where are we talking about price range of the drone and sets and so on?
Euros or dollars?
Whatever. Let's do dollars because we're in the US.
Yeah, $16,499. But you also get 6 batteries in the package, a 1 terabyte SSD, the RC Plus. So it's a really good deal. Camera is in the set. Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you. And we'll have something else we're working on, but we're not going to talk about this. And thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned to CineD for a lot more from NAB 2023, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.